Good evening. I would like to call this meeting of the Harbor Shellfish Advisory Board to order, April 16th, 2024. Can we have a motion to approve tonight's agenda, please?
Motion to
So
approve.
moved, Mr. Chairman. Second,
I'll take that as a motion from Mr. Anderson, a second from Ms. Andrews to approve tonight's agenda. All in favor, Mr. Anderson,
Aye.
Ms. Andrews,
aye.
Mr. Bossy,
Aye.
Mr. Brace.
Aye.
All right, do we have any other members on board, Mr. Brace?
No.
Okay. Draft minutes of March 19th. Has everybody had a chance to review them? Anybody suggesting any revisions? If not, I'll accept a motion to approve. I'm sorry, not March 19th. What's the date of the minutes?
It was March 19th,
Okay,
because I couldn't do both, finish March 19th and then do the last meeting at the same, because they're both big, long 2-hour meetings.
okay.
So moved. To accept it. Second.
Motion's made by Mr. Bossy, seconded by Mr. Anderson to approve the draft minutes of March 19th. All in favor, Mr. Bossy,
Aye.
Mr. Anderson,
Aye.
Mr. Brace,
Aye.
Ms. Andrews.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you. Marine Department report. Do we have any representation? Sheila called me earlier. She asked if she could come in at the next meeting. So natural resources.
And
Tara will
Tara,
not be with us tonight.
right, all filing with the kids.
It is vacation week. If there's nothing to no comments from the board on natural resources or marine department for this meeting? Any comments from the public? Old business, continued review and update of shellfish regulations. Any board members have anything new they'd like to add? Anything else they'd like to discuss? Or we can wait till our next meeting when Tara is with us.
She sent around the revised. Did everyone get it?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And I was like, oh, great, she's going away.
Oh, okay, next meeting. She's here.
Anything anybody'd like to discuss on the shellfish regs? Welcome, Jim. Welcome, Dave Franzuto.
Well, having completed the minutes, today, it's fresh in my head, there were several items that when we were doing the aquaculture regulations, that Tara said we should wait on these and get the growers. So maybe for the next meeting, we identify those or get Tara to, and then invite the growers to come to the meeting so we can review those, because it sounded like we couldn't proceed without their comments.
That makes sense.
Should we have you send a note to her and ask her to invite me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else? If not, we'll move along. Harbor watershed, public information, outreach and ideas. Anything new to report?
Yes, I do have some new information to report. I have spoken with Matt Little 2 or 3 times. He has the full PowerPoint that we presented back in September. He's taken a look at that. Right now, he's in the process of reviewing the PowerPoint to see how we can shorten it up a little bit, because what we're doing now is we're trying to coordinate logistically with his upper class, so the eighth graders, they're doing a field trip out to the sewer treatment plant to chat with David Gray, and he thought it'd be a good idea, seeing as David was part of the last session that we put on, that we combined the two as kind of a field trip, whether we're working on the logistics, whether we do something at the new school and then go over to the sewer treatment plant, or again, we do it all at the sewer treatment plant. So working on logistics, also trying to fine tune how to, trim certain parts of the presentation down to, I said, better, so it's better understood by eighth graders. Which I think we can do fine with that, because a lot of I have to give kids a lot of credit.
Yeah,
Kids, when I've presented stuff to my own kids, they sit there and say, could you just talk to me, as compared to like talking down. So I don't mean to talk down to anybody. I also have spoken with Posey Constable, because Jill Houseman is off island presently, and Posey's gonna be with her this week. And I plan on speaking with Jill to figure out next steps to get into the middle school or the high school itself. So when they're back after school break, I think we can have some more information when some possible dates are with them. And the other person I'm trying to coordinate with is Amanda Beardsley. And again, school, the applications have kind of cut that down a little bit. Posey also suggested that I reach out to Egan Maritime Aquarium, because they've done some interactions on programs with the middle school. So I have all the names, I have all the numbers, the dialogue's going on. I guess one thing I want to know is anybody here interested in being part of that? I'm retired, even though I do a bundle of things, so I'm pretty flexible during the day, so dealing with kids in school is not a problem for me. So I don't want to just take it and totally take over it. So once we come up with some dates and times, I'll reach out to everybody and see what might be feasible for you. If not, I will proceed to do a presentation on our behalf with at least a new school, and then see what happens with the other parts of the school system.
I'd love to join you with that, Mr. Anderson. Thank you so much for facilitating this. Mr.
Okay, no, I think it's moving along pretty good now that I have talking to the right people, as
That's
compared to the lady I thought who came to our session, who kind of has still not gotten back to me after 2 or 3 emails. So it's like, we're heading in the right direction, Andy.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you so much, Scott. Dave, you have your hand up.
Yeah, Scott, if you want, I can rework that PowerPoint presentation more for a school setting instead of the way we did it for the public. I'd be more than happy to do that.
That'd be great. I think you need to leave in some of the watershed diagrams that are in the beginning. And then that bundle of things about the pollutants and stuff in the yards. I just want kids to be aware of, again, difference between a septic system and a sewer system, and still the aquifer and how everything impacts it. So go ahead and modify it, and I'll tell you if I think anything else needs to be added back in.
All right, I'll rework that and send it back to you.
Great. Thank you.
Anybody else? I'd just like to say that Peter and I were unable to really link up last Thursday. You know, yesterday was a holiday, so we're actually using the same agenda from April 2nd. So if there's no discussion on some of these items, that's fine. And we'll fine tune our agenda for the next meeting, of course. So there's nothing else on the Harbor Watershed Public Information. Harbor Action Plan Committee, SHAB recommendations.
Yeah, I can speak to that if you want.
All right, please do, Mr. Franzuto. Thank you.
Okay, I hope everybody got my email that had the rewrites on the recommendations.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so what I did there was probably something similar that I'm gonna do to the PowerPoint, is I put them more in a in a format for inclusion in the harbor plan. Um, if you bear with me a second, I'll you guys still there?
Yes.
Okay, I thought maybe I lost you. All right. So I changed the wording to be more of a in the more of a recommendations. For instance, the first one is investigate the possibility of a secondary ferry terminal, in-town boat ramp, and public fishing pier. And if you looked at those write-ups, the second one was investigate current practice, establish a review group to increase the ferry embarkation fee. And then I have a recommendation to develop with the direction of town council approval and support of the select board a warrant article for the 2025 annual town meeting. And then I give the explanations of of the appropriations. I just want everybody to remember that the key phrases here are harbor services, public safety protection, emergency services, infrastructure improvements within and around Nantucket Harbor, and professional services pertaining to the potential use and reuse of land, building, and infrastructure of the vicinity of Nantucket Harbor. The other thing I wanted to point out, and I hope it was clear in my email, but I put a phrase there that says very important as it pertains to past lost revenue. Where it says any city or town that votes to accept this section may also vote in the manner prescribed above to exempt commuter excursion fares from the embarkation fee, in the text of the ballot question in the subsection shall so indicate. Our adoption of this at the 2003 town meeting did not exempt commuter excursion fares from the embarkation fee. It didn't specifically say that. It says in the legislation that you have to include that language in the adoption, and we did not. So I believe that we have lost revenue if their submittals of the funds have exempted the commuter excursion fares, which are, buying ticket books. So I believe that there's lost revenue there, and it wasn't included in the ballot question. So that's an important point. The commercial facility, again, we've stressed this numerous times, both at the Harbor Plan group and at our group, that a commercial facility is needed for fishermen to be able to offload and catch and fuel water and everything. And I explained that. Petrol landing, my recommendation there is the development of this property in some fashion. And my some fashion is at least be able to move forward with the additional dinghy docks there to relieve the pressure on the town pier. And the last one, which is the harbor master department, we voted unanimously to support that. So that recommendation was moved forward to the to the harbor plan group. And what I would like, if everybody will indulge me with that explanation, that I can, if we can have some discussion and approve or disapprove these other ideas that I have.
Mr. Chairman,
Please, Ginger.
Yeah, so Mr. Franzuto, I really love the pier inside the East Jetty as a, you know, public transportation and emergency access and all the other things. But I have noticed that in that shoal area that it's used by a lot of the endangered birds. So my question for you is, the hole in the East Jetty, and actually it's for everybody who's a boater, the hole in the East Jetty has allowed sand to come through that opening and get deposited up against the West Jetty on the inside. And I was wondering what the consequences would be of closing that hole and allowing the shoal to build up on the other side so that we might get some bird habitat a little better on the outside of that end of Cotu, which would be good if we could, just from the public standpoint, if we could have the birds have a more favorable spot for them over on the Cotu side, because you know, everybody wants the beach there, and you know, they don't like the plover fencing, and if we start moving a lot of traffic through there, it's also, you know, not going to be good. Plus we'd be eliminating some of their food supply. But if we could shift it to Cotu, I think that everybody, including the plovers, might be happier.
Well-
I just wonder what other people are thinking.
Well,
Dave?
as far as closing the cut in the East Jetty, the cut was put there for safety reasons, that when you can't come across Nantucket Bar because of an outgoing tide and an opposing wind. So the cut was put there for safety reasons, and the plovers nest more in front of the historic nesting for those is more in front of the restaurant and further to the north, rather than on that east side of that jetty. So I understand what you're saying, but the cut was put there for safety reasons. And I'm sure, again, that's why I changed the wording from construct a secondary ferry terminal to investigate the possibility of constructing. So I'm sure that with lots of review, the other point I want to make is, and this is brought up at the we've been meeting with the coastal resiliency folks at the harbor planning meeting, and I apologize because I have my screen pulled up with the recommendations written, so I can't see everybody, but because I'm not smart enough to do both. But anyway, one of the things that I believe, and Peter can certainly, I would hope, support this, is that we've talked about these three particular issues for over 30 years. And the coastal resiliency folks, if they've taught me one thing, it's that you need to be thinking out of the box and long term. And some of their recommendations are 20, 30 years out. And all I'm asking for is consideration to do the investigation of this as a possibility. We've exhausted the numerous locations, including spending hundreds of thousands of dollars doing feasibility and construction studies for a second in-town ramp. And this is the best stab I can come up with to incorporate all of these things. So I'm asking for everybody's diligence on this, that we need to be thinking long term. It's not going to happen probably within the next 5 years. The harbor plan group, Urban Harbors, is contacting these other entities, be it the Coast Guard and their plans for reconstruction, the steamship and their plans for reconstruction, improvements to what goes on at the High Line. We've all been down there in the rain and the dark, and it's not the best of situations. So I'm just asking for folks to be thinking out of the box.
Thank you, Dave. Mr.
Mr. Chairman,
Brace?
I'll back up Dave on all that. But it's also important that whether these things happen or not, that they are memorialized and built into the harbor plan so that they are there and carried forward, and the people who will update the harbor plan again, if those things don't get done by then, will see that we stress that these were important things, and hopefully they'll end up in the next plan. And so they're not just ideas that that Dave had that don't go anywhere because nobody did anything with them. If they're in the plan, then they're in the plan, and
they become actionable items then. So someone in the implementation group is going to be responsible to do these things and let them survive, pass, or fail on their own merit. But if they're memorialized in the plan, then they can't be just kicked down the road. So, Peter's, I appreciate your support on this, Peter.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Bossy.
I'd like to echo Peter's thoughts. I've always supported Dave 100% on this entire list. I do appreciate that the change to the wording, instead of putting, we're going to build a new pier in this update plan. It's the way we do everything here. We study things, we let's get out there and look at it and start talking about it. And the same thing with the embarkation fee. Let's get a group together and do the investigation and then present the findings. So let's talk about it. I know it takes longer, as long as we don't have to hire a consultant for it. I'm okay. But I like the new wording on both of these ideas.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave, and thank you, Dave. Anybody else?
And Mr. Chairman, so at what point do we say, okay, we like the wording and we make our formal recommendation to the Harbor Plan Committee? Because at the Harbor Plan Committee, we have been already talking about those ideas and they've gone off to do research on them. So can we consider them passed on to the committee, or should we formalize them in a letter or something?
No, well, my recommendation, I would love a letter of support, but if we follow the path that we did with the continue to support the harbor master, and I talked to her again today about this, when I went over the new regulations with her line by line, which I'm going to be forwarding to you folks for review of what she and I talked about. There were some wording changes. There was some misinformation in there, and we went through it like I said, line by line. But back to what Peter said, I would like to have a vote like we did for the movement of the harbor master, and then I can go back to the harbor plan folks on Monday at our next meeting and say again, these have been discussed at SHAB. You support their inclusion in the plan in this format. And then if the board so chooses to write a letter to support all of these things, and they don't have to be outlined in great depth, but just a letter from SHAB to the harbor plan group, or even an email, that would be fantastic.
Okay. I believe we should have it in writing, addressed from us as well, with all of our names at the bottom as being in favor. And when this is ready. To answer your question, Mr. Brace, I'd like to think that we get that go ahead from Mr. Franzuto. As far as the articles that we're talking about right now. Would that be correct? You're good with that, Dave?
That's fantastic.
All right. Peter? Yes.
So do we need a motion then? And a second?
Yes,
Would
what?
you like that vote tonight, Mr. Franzuto?
I would, and then we can remove it from the agenda. And, I think we've talked about it. I hope that I've given enough explanation to you guys as to where we're headed, especially with the ferry embarkation fee. I feel that there needs to be a review. It's now 21 years. This coming town meeting is going to be 21 years that we've quote voters have rubber stamped this. And like I've said in my discussions with you folks, if the review group, and you see who I called out in the review group, the Harbor Shellfish Advisory Board, the transportation planner, and I don't remember who else I had in there, but again, if after that review, it's found that what I think the review is going to find is that we've been shortchanged on what they've paid us, and we probably won't be able to do anything about that in retro, but moving forward, and also raising the fee to $1, which will double what it is now. And if after the review group, with this board's input, if it's determined that the money should be given to the police for summer specials to direct traffic at the boat, which is the explanation that I've been given for numerous years, then so be it. But I honestly believe that harbor infrastructure and harbor planning and harbor improvements, as also called out in the statute, also need to be discussed and have merit. So again, it's just like the construction at the east, on the west jetty. If it's found to be unfeasible, then so be it. At least we've discussed it. But your support I really appreciate. But again, the jetties is basically born out of just 30 years of trying to find a place for these things, and working with the coastal resiliency folks. I think this is a possibility.
Mr. Anderson?
So are we, do I assume that the coastal resilience has the authority to okay the increase in the embarkation fees? Or do we?
No. The embarkation fee would have to go to town meeting.
Okay,
This is talking about forming a group, the right participants to research it, to look into a number of things, right? Should it be raised? What would it be raised to? Where would the funds go? Are there missing funds from the commuter tickets? Right. So this group would, correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, I'm just paraphrasing what I think you're saying.
No.
This group would make that determination and come out, including the transportation planning, and then make a recommendation to the select board. Here's what this group thinks, and then the select board would have to do that.
okay. No, I totally
So
support.
Scott, this would be an actionable item to form this review
Okay.
group, and then that group would move forward. And again, let the chips fall. But without any review, that $225,000, and if it's raised to raised additional 50 cents, now you're talking $500,000 a year. And I believe that in a $32 million budget of the police department, they don't need this $225,000 to do their do their job, especially since they purposely hold, well, I can't say purposely. They have 4 or 5 unfilled positions, which translates to $200,000 a year as a slush fund that they use at their discretion. And you'll notice at town meeting, there's always a transfer item for police salaries to police expenses, and because of unfunded positions. So again, $500,000 for harbor improvements, or a portion of that for harbor improvements after review, I think would be very beneficial to us as the Harbor Shellfish Advisory Board and the boating public. So again, you could take some of that money and offset some of these costs for other things, other than paying for traffic control.
Now, I agree with everything you've said and was sort of supported 100%. I just was wondering if we may send a letter, do we need to send a letter to another entity? But you
Okay.
answered that question.
All right, okay.
Mr. Bossy.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead as a group and endorse Dave's Franzuto's list as it's currently updated, and direct Peter and ask Peter to create a letter, either email or print a copy to send to the Harbor Plan Action Committee, or Update Committee.
And I would second that.
Thank you for that, Dave. So the motion's been made by Mr. Bossy to move forward with recommendations from Mr. Franzuto and through us as a board, seconded by Mr. Anderson. Any discussion on that motion? Clarification of that motion? We all understand it?
Yes,
All in favor, Mr. Bossy?
I,
I had some
Mr.
clarification.
Anderson?
right,
Yeah.
we had some clarification required.
I'm sorry.
So, yeah, I had something to say, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry. We'll back down on the motion at this point. Mr. Brace on the motion.
I just wanted to say that I'm not sure, but I think Kim Starbuck may have already posted the agenda for next week's Harbor Plan meeting, which means it wouldn't go on the agenda, but I would think it'd just be a communication between boards. So it wouldn't necessarily be an agenda item that we would discuss. It would just be Peter Shab supporting Dave's ideas, and we want them to go in the plan, is basically what we're saying, right? So, but just to be aware of that, I think I got emails from Kim today saying that she was posting the agenda, so.
Okay, well, so can you, Mr. Brace, communicate with Mr. Franzuto if you need to facilitate this? Not to get off course at all, but we've run into this last year and years before. May 7th, which is the date of our next meeting, is also the date of town meeting. And town meeting begins on May 7th. So I've got a feeling we're gonna have to cancel our next meeting.
I have a question for the two representatives to the update committee. Don't you, representing your individual groups, are given an opportunity at every meeting to say, I have some input
Yeah.
from my group this meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, and that's
Yes.
where I would think this would be presented at their next meeting. It's not necessarily an agenda item, it's just an update. Here's the input from Shab, we had a discussion about this, and by the way, I brought a letter. We had a motion and they approved this letter
Yeah.
and delivered to the committee. Okay.
That's exactly right, Mr. Chairman. And also, as they're working through the sections of the commercial waterfront and other items, then these items will be inserted where in the appropriate section where they belong, and then they'll get carried forward into the matrix of the actionable items. So Mr. Bossy's correct. We'll just give Peter's at the meeting also, but we can give an update as to what this board's action is.
Okay.
Okay. So do we continue with that motion?
Mr. Brace, you
I think
okay?
we're into a vote.
You're okay to
Yes.
continue the motion now to vote?
Yeah, sure,
Okay.
yep.
Okay, all in favor of the motion, Mr. Bossy,
Aye.
Mr. Anderson,
Aye.
Mr. Sherlin,
Aye.
Mr. Brace,
Aye,
Miss Andrews,
Aye.
Mr. Franzuto,
Aye.
chair votes aye as well. That's all of us, yes?
Thank
you,
you,
Dave.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Peter, if you'd like me to flesh out a text, I can do that and, to try to make it easier.
sure, definitely do that, send it to me as soon as you can.
I'll send it to you and Andy.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
yes, thank you, Dave, for keeping that all organized and, on top of it for us all. Removing Marine Department from Police Department, Sheila, called earlier, she asked if, she could be heard at our next meeting. And, so, Mr. Franzuta, do you have anything you want to discuss on this
Yes.
tonight? Okay,
Well, it's one of my recommendations. You folks already voted unanimously to support her, continuing efforts to be relocated. And it'll be in, the letter that I flesh out to give to Peter for the email or not letter, but wording for the email. And like I said, I know it's under new business, but she and I went over the regs. We cleaned up some things. There was some wording that was just didn't make any sense. For instance, there's not anything such as a moorage. There is a great difference between anchoring and mooring. Mooring being a permanent fixture, an anchor being something that's temporary and can be moved. So anyway, she and I cleaned that up. I will send those to you. What you're looking for in that text is it's her and my changes are in bold black amongst the red rewrites, and they're underlined. And I think that they again, there was some misspellings of some chemical issues, some line issues for pennant lines, and you'll see the changes, and I'll get that to you. So when she is able to meet, if we don't end up meeting on May 7th, you'll have the updated version to review between now and our next meeting.
great. Thank you, Mr. Franzuto. Anybody else? Anything more on Petro Landing?
That's included.
Okay. Rest of the board, anything Petro Landing? Were you at our last meeting, Mr. Franzuto?
I was.
Okay.
I think I was.
So you are aware, of Mr. Brace's, information, from the land bank that, they are not, how did you put it, Mr. Brace? They cannot accommodate commercial activity within their,
Dave was there, yeah, I mean, it's not in their mission, so,
right,
and Jesse was pretty direct about it, but she's on the harbor plan committee, so Dave will see her and,
Yep. I've backed down from the original plan and just want to have some additional dinghy space over there for transient voters. It's closer to town and for all the reasons that we talked about. So I'll be talking with Jesse at the harbor plan meetings and that'll also be included as a, again, not as Peter brings up, so it doesn't get lost.
thank you, Dave. Ferry embarkation fee increase. I know we've
Same
pretty much
thing.
Okay, there's just one clarification, Dave. You mentioned about the excursion fairs, was it, or and that we haven't been collecting that, or it wasn't included in the original?
It wasn't, the exemption was not included in our initial adoption of the act of 2003. So therefore, if the steamship and the High Line has been exempting paying that to Nantucket, that's wrong because we did not adopt that provision. So we either have to adopt that and not chart, we either need to not, again, this is something that review group would discuss and recommend to the selectmen, that either we continue and we adopt the exemption for commuter books, or we don't. But my point is that for 20 years, because we didn't adopt that exemption, we've possibly lost that revenue. But again, that review committee will investigate that, and make recommendations to either carry on the way we are with an exemption, which would have to be adopted at town meeting, or not. So again, it's an avenue for us to collect additional revenue, including and also including raising it to $1.
Thank you, Dave. Anybody else on this? The alternate pier boat ramp at West Jetty. Anything more on this? We've spoken about it already tonight, but if there's anything else, now's the chance to speak about it.
I'd like to also point out, Mr. Chairman, that single-handedly tonight, we've cleaned up your agenda.
Yes, yes, absolutely, yes. Well,
By your people voting tonight on these proposals, I've cleaned up your agenda pretty quick.
yes, yes. Well,
Thank-
you helped clutter it up for us, so.
I know, I cluttered it up for 6 months, and now I'm trying to make amends, Mr. Chairman.
That's quite all right. All wonderful articles. So thank you, Mr. Franzuto.
No problem.
The final clarification of harbor thermometer, we covered this last week. Weather underground. Hopefully a flagpole will be going up at the Marine Department. Anybody have anything else they'd like to discuss on this topic? If not, we'll.
I got a question. I thought we agreed that Natural Resources were gonna put up a flagpole at the boathouse, at their pier.
Okay, well, we need to clarify that with JC. He was under the impression, as we mentioned at the last meeting, that that was federal property, which Tara clarified for us that the building and the pier are not. So I'm sorry.
That they are not. We have we own the boathouse and the pier, and we have a 99-year lease on the property that it sits on. And we've never in all the construction that I was part of there, or their renovation, to expand that and use the second floor, they've never had to or needed to or wanted to get federal approval for any modifications to that property.
That's right. And
So we can put up a flagpole there. Again, it's only going to be used for scallop season.
Right.
But anyway,
Right.
there's no approval necessary.
It's certainly, from what it sounds like from the fishermen, would be an ideal location as far as visibility goes. So maybe we'll keep the flagpole on the agenda and give us time to talk to JC a bit more about that. and we'll go on from there. Anybody else? Mr. Sherwin?
I believe, they discussed putting the flagpole back up at the Marine Department.
Yes.
And the other, like, one thing about the thermometer, look into it again, but I believe that only updates every 30 minutes or something online.
Thought it was-
It refreshes every 6, but only updates the temperature every 30 minutes, or we'll look into that a little more, but there's some questions about that.
Okay.
Anyway.
All right. Well, no, that's
Okay.
good, Jim. I was a little curious about that not being on Weather Underground and
It's not.
yeah, well,
Mr. Chairman.
and having, you
It's-
know, other people saying that they felt the NOAA site was more convenient and updating quicker. So maybe this is something we need to continue to discuss. The
No,
thermometer, yes,
Mr. Chairman,
Dave?
it's not Weather Underground, it's the NOAA site. It's the NOAA site that
Got it
comes
right now.
directly off of that station at the steamship. And I believe, Jim, and I may be wrong on this, but I believe it updates every 10 minutes.
Okay.
That site, I have it, I literally have it pulled up right now.
Well, Dave, wait a minute. I was informed by the Shellfish warden that it would be Weather Underground. So, you know, that's what he told me, and so that's what I have to state here. So if we can, you know, backtrack on this and confirm it to become the NOAA thermometer, that would be wonderful, of course. So
If I may, Peter, in your in your minutes, I believe, and I know Dave Bossy and I talked about this at the meeting. It's Peter, correct me if I'm wrong, but we specifically said the NOAA site at the steamship. I remember reading your minutes and it says those
right.
words.
Right, Dave, but last week, at the last meeting, Tara clarified it and said that it's the NOAA equipment at the Steamship Authority, but you get the information at Weather Underground.
Okay,
No.
I'll recommend we discussed
It
this
said
with
no-
here because. Yeah, I was under the impression it was the National Data Bowie Center that we were.
It's tides, it says station info, tides and current dot NOAA.gov. I have the site pulled up and the temperature right now is 58.6. So it's not Weather Underground, it's the NOAA,
Right.
it's the NOAA website. And I thought we clarified that in your minutes, Peter.
We did clarify it, but then I remember last week Tara
Yeah,
said they're gonna use Weather
Oh,
Underground.
okay, we
so-
should, we just discussed it. Let's just hold it. I mean,
All right.
we,
All right.
yeah, there's obviously.
But we need to have
Yeah.
clarification on how long it takes to update also, because
Right,
that could be,
right.
that could be a
I'm
problem.
willing
I'll
to
try
do
and
that.
watch it. I'll try and remember to look at it a bunch and see if I can figure out how fast it updates or find some information on it.
Yep, and I'm doing the same thing right now. It last updated at 1736. But anyway, these are all good things to clarify because we really do want to get this right.
absolutely, before the season begins, next November 1st, and you know, communication with JC as well. You know, from what I recall from me calling him about, you know, the thermometer in particular, he seemed to think that it was a preference of the fishermen to use Weather Underground. And that was his final decision to do so. We'll have to communicate ourselves with JC and clarify that.
And Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Dave.
It just updated at 17:42. So that's 6 minutes. That's 6 minutes, and I think that's what we presented.
Yeah.
Initially. And, we'll talk to JC and Carlson to clean this up, but so it looks like, through you, Mr. Chairman, to Jim, it looks like every 6 minutes, Jim.
Okay,
For the
But
NOAA.
I'm gonna track it and.
Directly at the
Dave will.
newest, correct, right.
Okay, all right. Okay. Any more discussion on that? The scallop shell pile? Anything new on that?
Sounds strange. Yes, I have been hanging out there a few times, especially when it was raining, to try to better understand the flows off the road, off the bike path, the hole at the bottom of, I'll say where the road and the driveway, for the lack of better words, meet. And there's actually some ponding on the Long Pond side that is like green, awful color water. So there's more going on at that scallop pile site than just stuff coming into the water that I think we gotta figure out how to deal with. It's probably, I mean, all the birds and everything. So yes, I'm gonna continue to monitor the water flow, and I will sit down with Drew Patnod and see what we can come up with a better site.
I think
Or
you could
better-
run it into that ditch right between the road.
There is a little gully
Yeah,
that comes off the slope of the land right next to where I'll say the driveway is, that funnels it right down into the
I would
road.
prevent,
Yes, it funnels it into the road, and then when you add the water that's coming off the bike path and the
Right.
hill from the road, it all just
Just pitch-
pushes
it's just
all the
pitch rock.
garbage out into the road,
there's
so.
a small
I
drain
wanted to
there.
make sure I have enough specifics, and I've actually sat there when it's raining to understand where the water's coming from
Right.
before I go try to like
ask to
explain it to
re-engineer
the
it.
guy that, I've spent time there.
Yeah.
So that's my update.
Scott, that's above and beyond. Thank you. That's no, really, that's
It is.
good work,
Oh, it's
Scott. Thank you.
self-serving. He just doesn't like to drive through it.
Exactly.
That's
No.
exactly right.
I mean, I was a little more concerned when all of a sudden I saw this fairly large, I'll say 6 to 8 foot diameter pool of green water, which to me has got some bacteria in it. So
Sure. Sure. All right. Moving forward, here again, this is 2 weeks ago's agenda, new business, conch harvesting. Do we have any discussion on conch harvesting? Hmm?
Mr. Chairman, Tara she reminded me when I saw her recently that Matt, her and Dan Tronk were to get together and work it out. And then she was gonna report back to us.
Mhm.
So,
And Dan is curious about possibly raising the tag limit if he can't work things out with the other two license holders. But it does sound like at this point, they have a line of communication taking place. So I'm hoping they can work it out amongst themselves. Dan, being the only one that sounds like he will be active this season, would like to have enough tags to make it worthwhile to fish inside the harbor. And honestly, you can't blame him there. And so, and I really think it would be correct for the harbor for there to be some conch fished. So let's hope that some middle ground is found there with these guys. Anybody else?
Can I just say one thing about that?
Yes.
Conch are major predator for bay scallops.
Yeah. Yeah.
We used to do a touch tank at all these events. And one of the things that we would do is we would put a conch in the touch tank with bay scallops. And I'm here to tell you, there's some kind of an enzyme that they give off. and the bay scallops would go completely berserk in the tank. So they are a major predator for scallops, and I think that they do need to be fished.
Agreed. Thank you for that, Dave. Anybody else? Proposed dinghy regulations at Town Pier. All I'm gonna say on this is, a little reminder, Mr. Brace, now that this has been under new business, let's, put it under old business and put it right at the top of old business, for our next agenda.
And so, Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
if we're gonna not meet on May 7th, that means our next meeting is a month away.
that's
Correct?
correct.
And then the meeting after that will be the first month meeting in June. That'll be Bobby DeCosta's first meeting with us.
I was getting to that next.
Okay.
So, I was going to ask you when election day is, Mr. Brace. I know town meeting is May 7th. Election day is usually after town
It's on
meeting.
the 21st. It's on the 21st. It's late this year.
Okay, so,
May 21st.
a 7 and 14, so the 21st, would be the date of our next meeting. Correct? May 7th is supposed to be, add 14 to that, so May 21st. I'm just, I'd just like to, however this works out, Ginger, your seat will be up. You've been with us. You've been with us for 2 terms, 6 years. It's been a pleasure to serve alongside you. And your presence here will be missed. And I'm sure we'll hear from you when you feel necessary. You always know we're here to listen, and we'll welcome your input and opinions and notices with open arms, Ginger. You've been a wonderful contribution to this board. And I can't say enough good things about working together with you and having you here with us for 6 years. So, if May 21st is our next meeting and the election has taken place, then this could very well be your last meeting. It seems a little confusing at this point to me, but if
Well,
if the election is the 21st, it won't be completed till after the meeting time. So if you belong here on the 21st still, please join us and we'll give you a formal farewell then. But if not, consider this a formal farewell. Board members,
well,
Ginger.
well, thank you, Andy. Thank you, everybody. I have to say that I'm very impressed with the rest of the board and their tireless dedication and all the effort everyone has put in. And I don't feel I just don't feel I can keep up. And it's time for me to get out of the way, so to speak. But I'm always happy if there's a question or someone needs a reminiscence or something. And I've been delighted to serve with all of you too. So thanks very much.
Wonderful, Ginger. Thank you.
Thanks, Ginger.
Board members,
Thank you, Dave.
public questions, comments,
Mr. Chairman,
Here,
Mr. Franzuto.
17:48, so it is 6 minutes, Jim.
okay, very good, Dave. Thank
It's
you.
every 6 minutes.
Okay,
Mr.
so
Chairman.
I'm not on watching this kind of thing. Is weather
No, I just, when I heard 30 minutes from Weather Underground, I wasn't happy with that. So if they,
weather, just to clarify, Weather Underground is a different site than this NOAA site. Okay,
most definitely.
okay. Jim?
Um,
Something,
Oh, go ahead, Dave.
Something you wanted to add, Jim?
Oh, yes, I just want to give a little report. We've been, moving some scallop seed, with permission of, Natural Resources Department with the Shellfish Association. We've done 2 days now. The first day we did was April 9th. We got 3 boats. We moved about 75 fish totes of seed from Bass Shoal down harbor to, First Bend, Hussey Shoal, Horse Shed and, Hulbert Avenue. Today we had, 3 boats participate. We had Simon Edwards bring up his 27-foot Carolina skiff, which was a huge help. He took 3 loads of scallops down for us. We moved over 135 totes of bay scallop seed from Bass Shoal today. That mostly went to First Bend, some went to Hulbert Avenue and Hussey Shoal. It was a huge help. People involved, Bruce Cowan, Carl Sherland, myself, Dylan Wallace came today. Doug Smith was there for the first day. Simon Edwards, Mac Wraith, and they had, I believe, 2 or 3 other kids who are in high school with them who helped Simon. And that was huge because 2 of those guys jumped on each scallop boat and just helped shovel. Because it's basically, it was a whole fish tote for dredge coming up. 2 totes, 12 full fish totes.
Wow.
And so they were able to, basically you could catch them as fast as they could transport them with the Carolina skiff, taking 20 totes at a time. Which was a great effort. That worked perfect. There's still a ton of seed there. The whole harvest got seed in it, it seems like. But that was definitely some of the thickest seed I've ever seen, a small little strip. So that was a great effort the last 2 days we did that.
Wow.
Let's get into questions.
The conversation, they'll move some to Mackin.
I don't think they're gonna do that. It's too much. Andy, yes.
Jim, thank you for sharing that. And if you could send our thank yous on to the fishermen that assisted.
Will do.
Simon especially, I don't believe Simon is a scalloper. So for him to bring his boat out and pitch in, how wonderful is that? That this is really, really good to hear. I'm so glad this is taking place. So, and to clarify for those who don't know, describe the location of Bass Shoal, please.
So it'd be like northeast of Pockmo Point. It seems like that there's a shallow spot there the seed collect on when they grow in the summer, and then as we get storms in the wintertime, they seem to blow off on either side.
Right.
Kind of get very, they're very thick. It looks like gravel driveway on the bottom. That's how thick they are in some places.
Wow. Great. Dave?
Yeah, what the effort, I cannot tell you that's a great effort and greatly appreciated. But I think that this moving seed and this effort specifically, reported to this board, Peter, I think that it deserves a sentence in your update to the selectmen that there's been this tremendous effort by the fishermen to do this year. And the reason I bring that up is, we've talked at great length about being able to pay these guys and figure out a way to do that. But so just as a method to keep it in the forefront, to set the stage for a funding mechanism in the future, I think if we memorialize it in our report update to the selectmen, I think somebody hopefully will remember that this all happened when we start talking about trying to find a way to fund this. So I'd like to make that recommendation to Peter, if you would include that in your report.
Yes, Dave, I agree.
The whole year, the whole effort, and especially including this week. But I just think it needs, if we memorialize it, it'll keep it in the forefront.
That's well put, Mr. Franzuto.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
through you to Jim, can you just email me the days that you went?
Sure.
And the numbers and everybody who participated, so I can include all that.
I
That'd be
imagine,
great.
I imagine Samantha has that information too. So, May 7th. Town meeting, we've been through this before. I mean, I think it's safe to say people are gonna be attending town meeting and not a SHAB meeting. Most of us here attend town meeting. So it's safe to say we'll be canceling our next meeting, May 7th.
Makes
Yes,
sense.
okay. All right. Let it be known. There will be no meeting of SHAB, May 7th.
I think you're breaking Colin's heart right now.
Yeah, right. All right, if there's nothing else tonight, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Motion's made by Mr. Bossy to adjourn, seconded by Mr. Anderson. All in favor, Mr. Bossy,
Aye.
Mr. Anderson,
aye.
Mr. Sherlin,
Aye.
He's frozen.
Uh-oh.
You there, Andy?
He froze. Whoa.
He's froze, so I'll take over and continue. Mr. Brady?
There we go, now he's back.
all right,
You froze for a minute.
Miss Andrews,
Aye.
Mr. Franzuto,
Aye.
chair votes aye as well. Good night, everyone. Thank you again, Ginger. Good night.
Good night. Thanks, everybody.
You're welcome.
Take care, Ginger.
We'll see you next meeting, Ginger.
All right,
Okay.
good night.
Good night.